He had 2 degrees, a stable income. People came to him for advice. And yet, at 53, he was lying awake at night staring at the ceiling, wondering where all his money had gone. Not because he was irresponsible, not because he was careless, but because being smart had quietly made him overconfident. Michael was a systems analyst, logical, disciplined, highly respected at work. He understood complex problems and solved them daily. From the outside, there was no reason to believe money would ever be an issue for him. He earned well. He avoided obvious financial disasters. He paid his bills on time. He believed deeply that intelligence naturally translated into good financial decisions. And for a long time, nothing seemed wrong, until life slowed down enough for him to notice the pressure. Despite decades of solid income, Michael had very little peace around money. Savings never felt enough. Investments were scattered. Some worked, some didn't, and he couldn't clearly explain why. He told himself, "I'll figure it out later." Later arrived faster than he expected. Ego disguised as confidence. Michael didn't think of himself as arrogant. He thought of himself as capable. That distinction matters. When friends talked about budgeting tools or financial planning, he quietly tuned out. He believed those were for people who struggled, not for someone like him. In his mind, asking for structured guidance felt unnecessary, almost insulting. This is where ego often hides. Not in loud confidence, but in silent assumptions. Smart people often assume they can think their way out of money problems. They trust their reasoning more than systems. They rely on intuition over discipline. Michael didn't realize it, but his intelligence had given him a dangerous belief. If there's a problem, I'll outsmart it when it appears. Money doesn't work that way. Why intelligence can increase financial risk? Research in behavioral psychology shows something counterintuitive. People with higher cognitive ability are often more likely to overestimate their financial judgment. Why? Because intelligence builds confidence, and confidence reduces caution. Michael read articles. He followed markets casually. He made decisions quickly, believing he could course correct later. Sometimes it worked. That success reinforced the behavior. Each small win strengthened the belief that he didn't need guardrails. But money decisions aren't isolated events. They compound quietly over years, shaped more by behavior than brilliance. And Michael's behavior was being guided by emotion, not logic, even though he believed the opposite. Overconfidence in prediction. Michael believed he could see what others couldn't. When markets rose, he felt validated. When they fell, he believed it was temporary. He wasn't reckless, but he trusted his timing far too much. This is a common trap for intelligent earners, the belief that understanding patterns equals predicting outcomes. The human brain loves coherent stories. When something makes sense to us, we assume it must be correct. Michael didn't say, "I'm guessing." He said, "This is logical." But logic without humility is fragile. Overconfidence doesn't feel like arrogance. It feels like clarity seeing through noise, until the noise turns out to be reality. Emotional blind spots don't announce themselves. Michael believed his decisions were rational. They weren't. They were emotional, just carefully justified. He spent more after stressful weeks. He avoided reviewing accounts when markets were down. He delayed decisions that triggered discomfort, not because he didn't understand the math, but because he didn't want to feel regret, fear, or uncertainty. The brain doesn't separate money from identity. For smart people, money becomes a reflection of competence. A loss doesn't just hurt financially, it feels personal. So the mind protects itself. It rationalizes, it delays, it avoids, and it tells itself a story that sounds intelligent. The moment that changed Michael wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. One evening, he tried to estimate how long his savings would last if his income stopped. Not permanently, just temporarily. The answer unsettled him. For the first time, he realized something painful. He had been managing money as an extension of his intellect, not as a system separate from his emotions. He wasn't bad with money. He was human with money. And that distinction changed everything. Smart people fall into specific psychological traps. They trust internal judgment over external structure. They confuse understanding with control. They avoid advice that feels beneath their intelligence. They overestimate their emotional neutrality. Money, however, doesn't reward intelligence alone. It rewards consistency. It rewards humility. It rewards systems that protect us from ourselves. Michael began to see that his biggest risk wasn't ignorance. It was unchecked confidence. Practical money psychology insights. Lesson 1. Intelligence does not cancel emotional bias. No amount of education removes fear, pride, or avoidance. Smart people still react emotionally. They just explain it better. Lesson 2. Confidence without structure increases risk. Believing you can handle it later often replaces planning. Systems exist to protect you from moments when you don't feel logical. Lesson 3. Being right occasionally reinforces bad habits. Small wins can mask flawed processes. Consistency matters more than occasional correctness. Lesson 4.